Hello everyone. In today's video, I just want to give you a quick update about what is happening with our family with two things, with school and with moving. A while back, I made this video in which I told you about three things. One is that my son Andrew is moving to New England to attend law school. The second is that we are also planning on moving to New England. But I didn't say in that video when exactly that would be, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And then the third thing was about cruises that I canceled. And what I said in that about cruises is still true. We currently have no cruises booked, and we don't plan on booking any cruises until U.S. cruises start going again and cruising gets either back to normal completely or as close to back to normal as possible. Two things about that. One is that I have another video coming up where I talk about my updated cruise wish list. And you'll see in that video that some of the cruises that I want to take, in fact, almost all of them that I want to take, do not leave out of the United States. And so the ability to take a lot of those cruises is even more complicated than cruising being shut down in the United States because it involves a lot of international travel and stuff like that. So I'm really going to have to wait a while on some of those. And then the other thing is we, as I've mentioned before, are waiting for COVID testing to be a non-issue. We don't want to do any kind of travel where we would be in any position where we might have to take a COVID test. And that's more than just not wanting to take the test, which we definitely don't want to do. That's because we feel very strongly that it is too risky to be put in a position where you might be forced to stay somewhere or be quarantined somewhere for an extended period of time if you happen to test positive. I've read numerous articles that show that PCR tests especially are overly sensitive and there are a lot of false positive tests. So that can really be a problem for you when you travel. Okay, so tangent. That is why we're waiting to book any cruises for the foreseeable future. Okay, so that's what I talked about in that video. So I just want to give you a little update on a couple things. Over the past school year, we talked quite a bit about the fact that the kids have been doing virtual school at home. The kids have not attended school in person since early March of 2020. Schools closed down in March of 2020, and I actually pulled my kids from school. How many days before, guys, do you think? Four days before? Yeah, before the schools actually... Yeah, 3 or 4 days before schools actually closed, I kept my kids home. And then the schools here where we live took a while to come up with a plan of what they were doing, and spring break was in there and stuff. So I actually kind of homeschooled my kids and came up with lessons and things for them for the first couple of weeks until the school put into place this virtual thing that they've used for the rest of that year, which was kind of a mess because it was a mismatch of teachers trying to do things themselves and the online program. And then for the students who chose the virtual option for the current school year, the 2020-2021 school year that just finished, that was a completely independent, self-paced online option. And we're not exactly sure how many students chose that. One thing we do know is there seemed to be a lot of students that kept switching back and forth. And that seemed to be a problem for the school district. And I can understand why. Megan, for example, she would go to there would be a weekly online meeting with her school district teacher, who was an English teacher at her high school that she's had before. She wouldn't attend all of them, but the ones that she did go to, he would often mention, for those of you who are just joining the virtual, and they switched every quarter, and it sort of sounded like people were switching between in-person school and virtual every quarter. There would be more or less, and I think that got to be kind of complicated for the school district, and they want to avoid that in the future. My kids finished school on that self-paced independent virtual option before the end of the school year. Ben actually finished considerably before the end of the school year. And my kids have done very well with it. Megan has become extremely independent. She really likes being able to work at her own pace. She really enjoys being able to choose what she's going to work at, on which class she wants to do in what order, what time of day, how long she wants to spend on each class. And even in doing all that, she still is always ahead of the pacing that the program sets for her. Ben has found it a little bit more challenging to do the virtual school because he really does miss having live teachers. And because of that, what we ended up kind of doing for the second half of this past school year is that I would supplement the online learning by sitting with him and like a whiteboard and books and maps and things like that, and teaching him more than what the online program would teach him, and kind of talk through it with him and do a little one-on-one sort of, teacher-student classroom time with him in addition to the online, so that it would kind of help him understand the concepts and things a little bit better. One other advantage that both kids have found from doing virtual school, and this is especially true for Megan, is they really appreciate not having the distraction of other students. And basically what I'm talking about is a lot of behavior, negative behavior stuff of other students that they would experience at school was very distracting for both of them at school and could make it harder for them to learn. They really liked having the relationship with the teacher, and Megan especially does miss some of her teachers. But, just lots of talking and the teacher having to deal with, misbehavior by other kids and things like that in the classroom. Without having that distraction, they're able to focus more on the learning and the lesson itself. And then also outside of classroom time, like just in the school in general, misbehavior and the environment of the school, like in a social way, I don't know how to better describe that. There's some negative things about the in-person school experience that it was nice for them to be able to get away from. Over the course of this past school year, the school district realized that they probably needed to continue having a virtual option for the students who did well with it for one reason or another. And there can be a lot of different reasons that some kids really thrive with the virtual option. I talked to the person who's kind of in charge of the virtual at our school district, and she and I have had a number of conversations. She's been very nice. And she said that our school district actually was planning to start a virtual option about 7 years from now. They had that in their long-term plan. A lot of school districts in the United States have done this or are doing this. But the pandemic kind of pushed that timeline forward unexpectedly. And so because of that, they had to kind of throw together a virtual option very quickly, whereas some school districts that already had a virtual option in place were at an advantage. The neighboring school district in the next town over from us actually already had a virtual school. And they've actually expanded that so much, they've even removed the enrollment cap. And so anybody now who wants to stick with virtual school in that school district can. Now, our school district still, I don't think, is ready or to the point of having a virtual option, a permanent virtual option, the way they want it to be. But they recognized over the past school year during the pandemic that there are students who want to continue with a virtual option going forward. And so they came up with another thing in the meantime to offer to them, but they changed a couple little things. It's going to be basically the same. It's still going to be independent and self-paced. And this is for grades 6 through 12. I'm going to kind of leave out elementary because that's kind of a different thing. And I'm not going to talk about that here because that doesn't apply to my kids. Okay, so for 6 through 12, it's still going to be independent and self-paced. And they're still going to have a teacher representative at the school district that's going to be like their point of contact for the school district, who's still going to like put their grades in and, you know, help them with issues and things like that, like they've had this whole past year. But they're switching the, I guess you'd say, the software program that they were using. The other thing that they changed is they made it a rule that you cannot switch between in-person school and virtual school. If you want to do the virtual, you had to commit to sticking with virtual for the entire upcoming school year. So that is a change, and that must be because they want to eliminate the people switching back and forth. I can especially see how that would have been problematic for the teachers at the schools, because that would mean they'd have all these kids coming in and out of the classroom all the time, and that would be an extra burden for them. So that was the second thing they changed. And then the third thing is they did put an enrollment limit on it. They're limiting the virtual option for the 2021-2022 school year to 30 students per grade. And when I looked at the website for the program that they're going to be using, it's pretty expensive. And so I understand why they're doing that, because they're probably trying to keep their costs down, and they're probably trying to also keep it to a manageable size for those teachers that are going to be the representatives for the virtual students, because those teachers still are also having to teach classes at the schools too. So this is like an extra class, if you will, of 30 kids. That's like one of their classes, is I also have this class of 30 virtual kids. So because it's capped to 30 students per grade, you had to apply. And so we filled out the applications, and I found out yesterday, the day before I'm filming this, that both Megan and Ben were accepted to the virtual program. So they will be doing that next year. Now, with Megan, this was a no-brainer. Megan only has one more semester until she graduates. She's graduating early. She will be graduating in January. She doesn't even actually need any specific classes anymore. She's done with all of her required classes. She only needs to meet the 28 credits requirement that her high school has. And so she only needs 4 credits of electives. So she literally just gets to take fun stuff, whatever she wants, to finish up this last semester. And she's kind of so done. At the end of her classes here in the spring, she was like, I'm so done with this. I just want to graduate. She's just so done. She's done very, very well with the online school, and she absolutely did not want to go back to in-person school. Recently, she was really excited because her connection teacher, who was the English teacher I said that she's had before, actually wrote some comments on an essay that she had to submit, and she got really excited about that because she missed having that interaction with a teacher. And I said, oh, you really miss the teachers, don't you? And she said, yeah. And I said, are you sure you don't want to go back to school for your last semester? And she said, no, don't send me back there. She did like the stuff with the teachers, but not enough to have her want to go back to in-person school. She much prefers being at home. She much prefers avoiding the social drama of school. And she much prefers being able to work independently and at her own pace. So it was a no-brainer for Megan for all of those things. So Megan's going to be finishing in January. She will graduate early, and she's done. Okay, for Ben, the reasons were a little more complicated. And we really did kind of debate with Ben, because Ben has always really liked school, and Ben does miss his friends. Ben has not seen any of his friends since March 2020. Are you sad? Shrug. So, but here's the thing for Ben. We still don't think it's safe. We don't think that schools should have been open at all. We feel very strongly about that. I can't count the number of emails we've gotten from the schools telling us about positive cases in the schools. For a while last fall, it was literally every single day. Every single day we got an email from the school saying that there was another positive case. Sometimes there was more than one. And the schools did have to shut down again for all of November, December, and January because they were closed and everybody was doing virtual school because there were so many cases and there were so many people in quarantine and so many teachers in quarantine that they couldn't stay open. The pandemic is not over. Just because, don't get me started on the CDC saying that vaccinated people don't need to wear masks anymore. I disagree. Just because you're low risk does not mean you're no risk. Remember that the vaccines are 90% effective, yes, but that's not 100% effective. You can still get this virus. And we absolutely, our goal through the whole pandemic has been, we will not contract this virus under any circumstances. We do not want to get this virus. Not because we're afraid, but because we're realistic. We don't want to be sick. We don't want to end up in the hospital. We don't want to die. And also, we don't want to have all the health problems that they're finding with more and more passage of time. People who test positive and maybe had mild symptoms at first, I just read an article yesterday, might die of it 6 months later. And people with long haul COVID that are sick and have permanent health problems for the rest of their life because of this virus. That's not something we want to be dealing with. And so we are just absolutely determined not to get this virus. And from the things I've seen from the school district, pictures that they post on social media and things, there's people all over the places this whole school year that didn't have masks on. The mask enforcement is not good as far as I can tell. And with all the cases that we've gotten emails about, and who's to say if the virus is being spread in the schools or not, but that's beside the point. It's still, as we've said in past videos, the environment of a school is exactly where you should not be for the pandemic. The virus is aerosolized. You get it by breathing in the air around you, and indoors is the worst place you can be. So a school is inside, it's crowded, it's close quarters, the ventilation isn't great. I mean, it's a nightmare when it comes to spreading the virus. And so we just don't think it's safe. And then the other thing for Ben is, yes, Ben is vaccinated, but like we said, low risk is still not no risk. And I think it's still a very strong possibility, since younger kids will still not, anybody under 12 probably still will not be vaccinated by the beginning of the school year in the fall. There's still going to be a lot of weirdness about school. I think there's still going to be a lot of things in place, very likely probably still masks and distancing stuff and hand washing things and like cohorts and pods and things like that. And I just really don't think it's going to be back to the way it was before the pandemic yet. Because of that, Ben's not too keen on it either, because he wants to be able to talk and interact with his friends. And we don't know, I don't think they'd be able to sit together at lunch. I don't even think they're having lunch in the lunchroom. So it's kind of weirdness like that he's not really too excited about. And then I guess the other thing that's kind of like a selfish reason for me is I really like having us at home. I really like all of us being at home together and getting to be together all the time. I like that the kids, I want them to be doing the same thing. I think it would be a little bit weird if Megan was at home doing school and Ben was going to school. I think there are some families like that, but I just think that would be strange. Once Megan graduates and she's done, well, then it's not going to be so much of an issue. We can decide on Ben independently. For right now, I've really enjoyed the time of being all home together and all having kind of the same schedule and having a much more relaxed schedule where we're not so dependent, we got to get up really early and get to school and all that running around and stuff like that. And it's very stressful. And I really enjoy having all this extra time with my kids. I love being with my kids. And so this is kind of like a bonus blessing for me that we get to be home together all this time. And then another reason is we do have some upcoming trips planned, and being able to do the self-paced virtual school gives us more flexibility in our schedule for being able to do that and not have to worry about missing school. because the kids can work ahead and be done with the school for the time that we're going to be gone, and it won't be an issue. Okay, so then with all of that decided, what does that mean for moving? Well, we need Megan to graduate. If they hadn't offered a virtual option for this coming school year, or if Megan hadn't been accepted to it, then we might have considered moving sooner, because there wouldn't have been any reason for her to stay. But since she will be able to finish at the high school she's gone to the whole time, and she will be able to graduate, well, then it makes sense for us to stay here until she graduates. We would like to move as soon as possible after that, though. And that's going to be just a logistical thing. We need to be able to sell this house. We need to get rid of a lot of stuff. And we need some kind of source of income that's higher than what we have now, because we're going to be going from a relatively low mortgage payment to much higher rent. And so I might have to start looking for jobs out there. I haven't had any luck finding a job here for the past umpteen years, but I'm really hopeful that maybe with employers really desperate for people or something, I don't know. I'm not sure what we're going to do. I'm scared about that. I'm nervous about that. We're hoping to move sometime between, I guess I would say, February and May or June of 2022. Does that sound right? Okay, so that's kind of our goal. So that's between 8 and 12 months from now is when we're hoping to move. We are going to be flying out there and renting a car and going for a week. One, to visit Andrew and make sure he's all settled in where he's living, and also to drive around and explore the area a little bit. We've kind of decided we would like to live within about an hour of Andrew, and so I drew a circle on a map and figured out where that is, and we're kind of going to explore that area while we're out there and see if there's part that we like better than others and things like that. So you can look forward to those videos. So be sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the notification bell so you get notification of all of our videos so you don't miss when we take that trip. I don't think we'll be taking a lot of video out there because we'll mainly be looking around for our own purposes, but we might do a couple of fun things while we're there that I might make videos about. So that's where we're at with school and with moving. I'm curious to hear from other people. I know that in the news articles that I've read, a lot of people have abandoned public school. A lot of people, especially people of color, have decided that, no, this isn't working for us. And, you know, they don't feel safe either. They recognize the pandemic isn't over. You know, not only this past year, but going forward, there's been a real increase in people who are choosing online school and choosing homeschooling. And I'm curious to hear what other people are doing. And, you know, what did your kids do this past school year? What are your kids going to be doing this upcoming school year? What do you think schools where you live are going to be like this upcoming school year? And how do you feel about that? Does it concern you? Are you okay with how things are going? You know, so be sure to leave all those things in the comments. I love to read your stories and what other people think. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. And again, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Have a great day, everyone, and safe travels.